Hey everyone, and thanks for painting with me today. I'm going to show you in really simple steps how to paint these gorgeous dahlia flowers. I decided to paint a lovely blue sky and some soft white fluffy clouds for my background, but you could also paint a solid colour if you prefer, it would work just as well. I've mixed some cobalt blue, some white and a tiny amount of black, and then I'm using a sponge to apply this to the canvas. Really just to show you a very quick and easy way to get a nice soft cloudy background. My sponge is an artist's sponge, but you could use any other fine sponge that you've got for this, a makeup sponge or something similar. It'll give you a similar effect. You can go over the white with blue and over the blue with white if you're not happy with the shape, and just build it up until you get a shape that you like. And then finally, come in with some white and add the few little highlights on the clouds here and there. Next I'm going to make sort of a light bluey green colour. I've got some white, some sap green, and I'm adding a little bit of cobalt blue to this too. I'm going to use my sponge again, and we're going to paint, just sort of dab on some trees in the background. And again, because I'm using the sponge, it's going to give almost a soft, blurry, hazy background, which is the kind of look I'm going for. It's a really quick way to paint too when you're painting with a sponge like this. A lot of it will be covered with the flowers in the foreground, so don't worry too much. You can gradually darken it as you come forward by adding more sap green, and then eventually we'll add a little bit of black to the sap green too to get an even darker green. Just work along the canvas, slowly build it up, try and make it somewhat of a tree shape as you're going, and just get that canvas covered. Next, find yourself a circle and something that you can use to draw a circle onto that canvas. This is just going to act as a bit of a guide so we get a nice circular, even shape for our dahlia. As you can see, I'm painting well over the line because I want to cover that circle that I've drawn on. I'm just using the circle just to keep that nice circular shape so it doesn't turn into an oval or a misshapen flower. I've mixed my pinks and a little yellow together, and I'm using a medium round brush just to paint in the petals, moving around the circle until I get a nice shape. Once that coat is dry, we can then come in again and paint a next row of petals coming inwards. Don't worry too much about colours at this stage because this is just going to act as a guide. We're going to come in later and add the detail. Between every layer of petals that you're doing, let it dry. That'll just help you out a little bit. And as I'm moving into the centre, the petals are getting shorter but also slightly wider and rounder. For the centre part, I've mixed up some cadmium red and some alizarin crimson to get a really nice, brilliant pinky red colour. And we're going to mark out a circle, which will be the centre of our flower. If you add a little black to that colour as well, it'll give you an even darker red for the centre. And you can also use that for the shadows around the base of that circular part in the middle of the flower. I'll add a few highlights. I've moved to a small round brush now just to get those details. Just keep working at it, keep building it up until you get somewhat of a centre that you're happy with. Then you can add a little blue to that dark red colour. It'll give you more of a grey colour. We'll start adding some small little petals on the inside. They do look quite dark and grey at the minute, but once we start adding highlights and things, they look a lot better. This is generally the part where you might think it's not looking quite the way you want it to, but just keep working at it, just keep applying the paint, let it dry and come back to it if it's not working out the way you want it to, and eventually you'll end up with a really nice centre for your flower. Then we can use that same lovely grey-pink colour to add the shadows on each petal. And because we've already marked out where our petals are going to be, this is going to make life a lot easier for us as we're doing this. You can also start adding a little more colour to the petals if you like, and just work your way around the flower, building up each petal individually. And don't forget, if you make a mistake or make it too dark or it's too light, you can come over the top of it and add another colour. Slowly build it up, work on each petal individually, add some pinks and yellows too, and then the final step, which will really bring it to life, is to add those nice white highlights on the tips and on the edges. For the rest of the flowers, I'm going to paint them quite loosely. I've got my lovely rich dark red again with my alizarin crimson, scarlet red and a little black. And I'm going to mark out roughly the shape of the bud of the flower next to it. You can come in with some light pinks as well, a little bit of yellow maybe, and sweep it round. Because the paint is wet, it will naturally all blend together and you'll get some really nice effects. The main thing is not to overwork it too much, keep it nice and loose. I've got my sap green again with a tiny amount of black added to it, and we can also use our medium round brush again just to put in the green areas and start marking out the stem. If you add a little yellow, it'll give you a nice contrast and you'll get a nice lighter area down the side of the stem and on the leaves. For the other dahlia in the corner, I'm going to paint this one quite loosely just to show you how it's done. Again, because all the paint is wet, it's blending and merging together. Just keep building it up, paint in the petals until you're happy with it. For the leaves, I've got sap green, some cadmium yellow and a little white. And really I'm just going to mark out the leaf shapes with my medium round brush again, paint them in where I think they'll look good. You can also use your darker green as well, mix it up a little, just block out where those leaves are going to be. We'll probably make the very bottom of the canvas and the front of the painting much darker, and the light leaves on top will give a nice contrast. Again, they're quite loose. I'm not putting in too much detail because the star of the show is that big dahlia in the middle. You can switch to a small round brush if you need to, add in a few details, and just slowly build up the leaves, put them wherever you think they'll look good, and eventually you'll end up with nice foliage all around your dahlia. Thanks for painting with me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button for me, and I'll see you next time.